And the guy who helped me, uh, I'm going to let him know that everything is doing good. And so, with that being said, I'm going to take these glasses off. It is now. People start rolling in here in a little bit. But what I'd like to do, Angelica, is I'm going to make a brief introduction here in a couple minutes. We're just going to chit chat for the moment while we wait for people to come in. And then I'm going to let you introduce yourself, where you're from, position you're running for, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the other things that you would like to talk to about. And I'm going to ask you what are 3 of your top positions on your platform. This way you can put out those top 3 and encourage people to go to your website, and I'll ask those questions for you. I'll do as best that I can to lead you into those questions. We're under no time limit. I want you to feel comfortable that you've got your message out, and that's what's important tonight. Okay, this is not about Dave Strider for U.S. Senate. This is about you for U.S. Senate. Okay. Yeah. People already know I'm just a cranky old Marine. So it's important that they meet somebody who's a little bit more mellowed out than what I am sometimes. But other than that, I think we're going to have a good time tonight. I am going to make a brief introduction for us, and I think I'll do that right now. We're 7:01. We're about a minute into it. And so I'll go ahead and make a brief introduction as to who I am, and with me tonight, who you are. And that is, I think, a very important thing for us, that we do these things tonight so that we can let people know what's going on across the country. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dave Strider. And guess what? This is a new medium for us, okay? Tonight, my guest is Angelica Earl. She is an independent candidate in the state of Missouri, but she's running as a Democrat because of the way they do their things over there, and some states too. But Angelica is very passionate about going up against a sitting incumbent, Claire McCaskill. She has her hands full. She has a very nice platform. And I've found out that going across the country, I have found more and more people like Angelica, doing the same thing that I'm doing, going up against establishment. And so far, we are doing very well as far as organizing. Now, Angelica, she is in the state of Missouri, somewhat of a big state. Hold on a second, people. I'm looking for my eyeballs. Meanwhile, I'm just going to grab these right here. Okay. But what I'm getting at right now, ladies and gentlemen, is that I want you to meet Angelica. See my glasses, how they're broken? Okay. Dollar store. I'm on a low budget. And, but anyway, she's ready to answer your questions. Angelica, welcome to the show. Welcome to Dave Strider's little Adobe. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to let her introduce herself and talk about some of the things she liked. Angelica.
Hi, everyone. Girl. I am running for the Senate nomination. Yes, my incumbent is Claire McCaskill. I am much further to the left than her centrist views. And, I'm very happy to be here and excited to speak with you, David, about everything. I think we've talked before, and, we do have a lot to talk about and a lot in common. So I think this is going to be a great conversation.
I'm looking forward to it. And I encourage everyone here tonight that are able to stop in. And if you don't catch this broadcast, please make sure that you go to her website. Angelica, what was that web address again?
Oh, it's teammissouri.net. Super simple. Just teammissouri.net.
Teen
Yep.
teammissouri.net. I like that. Simple and to the point. I want everybody to ignore the glare in my glasses. I'm very self-conscious about that. But anyway, but I think that we were talking today, Angelica. You asked, you said you're working on a plan, a bill, and the bill itself surrounded the minimum wage, the federal minimum wage. And I thought that the format and the pointing that out was very important. And that was a lot of people say, well, I get $15 an hour. I'm already making 11. I'm only going to get a $3 raise. Well, that's not right. If someone else, if you're working 725, I think I mentioned this to you, and you affirmed it for me. If someone's making $7.25 an hour, the federal minimum wage, and they get a raise to $15 an hour, is the person who has been there for 5 years making 11.25 going to see also a $7.75 raise?
Right.
And you said
So that is
yes,
correct.
absolutely, because that's the only way it can work. I mean, if you've punched it out in the trenches for a long time and you've been able to stay with a company, and staying with a company these days is very hard to do. Um, you're entitled to that extra money. And I think we talked a little bit about MMT today. But what I'd like to do is go into a little bit about your background. You mentioned that you're in healthcare. Have worked in healthcare.
Yep.
Um, and my hat's off to this woman. I was a single dad at one time in my life, but my hat's off to a woman, a single mom. Okay, us guys, what's James Brown say? It's a man's world. Well, women have it a lot harder. Okay, and we know that from the political rant that we've been getting. And so my hat's off to you, Angelica. For being a single mom and taking care of your children and giving them the best that you can.
Thanks.
And I think that it's going to be that attitude that we take to Washington D.C. That is going to help working mothers, single mothers in Missouri and around the world vote for more of the people who are independents and progressives. And my hat's off to you.
Yeah,
My hat's off to you.
thank
So
you.
I'm turning it over to you again. I'd like the people to know a little bit more about you.
Well, sure. Okay, so I worked at the health insurance marketplace, doing the Affordable Care Act all day, doing verifications for people who were applying for their insurance through the marketplace. So I had Department of Homeland Security clearance, and I had clearance to view financial records. I was able to do a lot. The people who worked there definitely this job was very intensive when it came to the knowledge we had to have about government and about how to verify people for their insurance. Not only did I gain knowledge on government and insurance, but I was also able to talk to hundreds of people across the country about their insurance, about their family, about how the Affordable Care Act saved their lives or saved their family member's life. And it just became kind of like one of those things where, okay, I need to take this knowledge that I've gained and how dysfunctional this system really is and just kind of make people aware of this and use this platform to make people aware that this can be escalated to a single payer um, uh, country overall. They, the Affordable Care Act was just absolutely it's just a disaster. Working inside of the marketplace, we're run by CMS, and CMS is actually a government entity that would tell us what to do down at the bottom down there, doing all the applications and doing all the actual work. And they would literally change every day, if not multiple times a day, what your job is supposed to be. We had a quality assurance department that was literally the only job that they had was to get people in trouble and to tell them how they messed up and not to correct any of the applications. What is the point of having quality assurance if they're not going to correct the mistakes so people can move on? And I've heard the horror stories of people who lost their insurance because those mistakes went through without being corrected. They would bounce them back to the person who made the mistake. and they would get a ding on their record, and you're only allowed a certain amount of dings, but yet you're a human being, but yet they change the rules all the time on you. And it's just it was probably one of the worst places I've ever worked as far as functionality went. So I it just kind of came like, okay, I got to get this word out there, and I know that we need single payer. I know how we can have single payer, so I decided to throw my hat in. Before I worked at the marketplace, I worked in the business industry, retail, service industry for 15 years. I worked my way up to store management. That's actually how I ended up in the marketplace. Was I couldn't stand working in that environment anymore, and I thought that it would get better when you got higher up, but they ended up making you do more work for almost no pay. And it just became like, okay, I'm switching careers. And I went back to school and got my degree with a focus on history because I just love history. And I ended up working at the marketplace with that degree. Um, so it's just kind of it went full circle for me. I saw all the aspects of everything and how dysfunctional society is. I've been there, not to mention, I've been at the point where my significant other feels inadequate because he can't have enough money to help the family and support the family just on his own anymore. Society is just in shambles. Our economy is a mess. And I really want to try to fix that very badly. So we have the American Dream tax plan that I'm trying to introduce to try to fix that issue. It's an incentive program for businesses to do the things that they need to make sure the working class people live happy, healthy, and successful lives. I am working on a collaboration with many, many different candidates running across the board. And if others want to get involved who are already in office, that would be awesome. And we can make this an actual real life thing where we can actually incentivize these corporations to give us our parental leave, to unionize, to have full time employment. Everything that we need, we can incentivize them with their profits to give it to us. So if we think about profits with these places, um, that's their number one goal is profits. So if we tax them at 90%, and then we say, hey, we're going to give you some of your profits back if you do these things, that's where the incentive comes into play. So that's what I'm working on.
It sounds good. Um, I have as you are a single mother. Uh, let's let's look at from a different angle right now. You're not running for office, and the reason I say that right now, okay, is because I want to know what is very important to you as a single mom. What are some of the issues that you're facing with raising your children? Issues that fall outside the spectrum of being a candidate, because these are the issues that are probably the same ones that are affecting your neighbors in Missouri.
I've had this conversation with other people in the business world about being that single mom, about the struggles. So, one of the struggles that single moms tend to face, which I've discovered, is that we just aren't getting enough support from that other half that should be there helping. And that's a big, rampant issue across the country. So, that's one thing that I'm dealing with while I'm going about this. So, that little extra money that I really needed is just kind of not there. So I'm doing it all on my own. It's all on my shoulders. Um, One of the other issues is you have to play the mom and dad role consecutively. You have to be the bad guy and the good guy all at the same time. So your baby's trying to grab that last piece of chocolate that you told her no to 6 times, and you pop her on the hand,
Yeah.
and then she's going to cry to you because nobody else is there to cry to. So she has to cry to the person that just harmed her and to tell her not to do that. And it's just kind of it's kind of all over the place. You don't have any help. You have to try to bring a baby inside at the same time you're bringing in groceries, and your baby's running around in the parking lot, and you don't know what to do. All of a sudden, there's no extra pair of hands there for you, and you really need them. Taking care of two kids is not difficult, but it is definitely time consuming, and you definitely don't have enough hands for the job just as one person.
And I know that there's another issue too, and that is one day your children may want to go to college or to trade school, and as a single mom, it makes it a little bit harder, doesn't it?
Well, I haven't thought that far ahead yet. Thank goodness, my kids are only 5 and 2,
Oh,
so
okay.
I can enjoy the little moments. But I've thought about that. I actually was able to produce savings accounts for them when I was working at the marketplace. So I have a little bit of savings up there. My parents were not able to do that for me, so it was really important for me to do that for them. Now that I've been laid off from the marketplace, I'm trying my hardest not to dig into those savings accounts. I did have my own as well, but mine account is slowly dwindling, and I'm worried about that. So one of the other things is when you're a single mom and suddenly you find yourself unemployed, and this was for reasons not of my own. This was just this what happened at the marketplace. They just did a mass layoff, and I was one of those affected by that. um, Suddenly I find myself on unemployment, and that makes it a lot harder because I'm not just feeding myself; I'm feeding two kids, and so unemployment is really really difficult to feed two kids. They've been sick a lot, so I got to put them on medication. My oldest is in preschool; I have to pay for that, and that's difficult to afford on top of everything else. So it's definitely difficult. I definitely feel the weight on my shoulders. At the same time, I know that what I'm doing and running for this office them particularly with their future and their life because I can help so many people that they'll be included in that.
Which and what you've talked about as far as financial issues that are coming up on for you, and that is, how do you feel about the recent GOP budget?
Oh, well, that tax bill is just absolutely disastrous. We've been there twice before. It was called the Great Depression and the Great Recession. So I'm very very nervous about what's going to happen here. I think part of the reason why net neutrality is under attack is because they know that we're going to be in this moment of desperation,
Yeah,
and
with
that's our line
Kyla.
of communication. That's how we make sure that everybody can be in communication, and they're going to try to take that away from us. So we will struggle even
Looking
more.
at those pictures, like he had so much hope for them, for her.
Adrian,
Still there.
if you could mute your microphone for us, okay?
Sorry.
Oh, that's all. That's all right. Thank you for joining us. But yes,
Hi.
back to the bill. I mean, it does nothing but give a massive uh, contribution to the 1% who, ever since
There's
Ronald Reagan, it has never worked.
yes, and there's
Okay.
something else going on that's happening right now, and that is that there are a bunch of Democratic senators who are trying to roll back Dodd Frank, and that's actually happening right now. So that is so. First, we have this GOP tax bill that is going to take away money from the middle class, from the lower poverty stricken people, and push it up to the top. So then we have these Democratic senators who are going to come in and say, hey, we didn't vote for that. Well, we didn't have to, but we didn't vote for that. And so now we're going to go ahead and push forward this rollback on Dodd Frank, which was the reaction to the 2008 financial crisis that was there to protect us,
Hmm.
you and I, and everybody who's watching this or is going to watch this, is to protect us. And that is and they're going to roll that back. These Democrats, these are not Democrats. These are conservatives. The only reason that that would be rolled back is because they were conservative. So this is going to put our banking system back on the brink of collapse because they gamble away our money that we have in their banks, which is how we found out during the Great Depression is when the banks run dry all of a sudden and you go to pull your money out and it's not there. That's why, because they're gambling away the money in the
Hmm.
stock market. And that's what's going to end up happening again. That's really, really scary that we still haven't fully recovered from the 2008 collapse, and we are now headed into another one, and I have a feeling it's going to be worse. I'm actually really scared.
Yeah, and I'm a new homeowner. My wife and I, we bought using our GI Bill uh, a new home because with my getting up, in years, the last thing that I would really want to do is repair a sink or a drain or downspouts. And she was very wise in choosing a new home which had warranties. But at the same time, this new budget that we're talking about does nothing but, over the course of years, is going to strip away so much money from the entitlements that we've paid into Social Security. And for me, I receive Social Security and the veterans pension.
Mhm.
Now, for me, I don't pay anything for my health care, but I have to pay 35% of my Social Security benefit, which is not a whole lot. I have to pay 35% of that for my Medicare Part B. They're making me pay for something that I didn't have to pay now. And so I'm in a fight with Social Security and Medicare on that. And I'm sure that there are other individuals out there in the same boat that I am. I will say that I'm in a better situation. But when we talk about this budget and the cuts that they want to do because of the deficit running up, what are they going to do? They're going to cut entitlements. That's always the way it goes.
Right.
The Republicans cut, the Democrats, raise taxes.
Right.
And
Exactly.
the whole thing, it's just they're the same group of people. Um, you know, the Republicans at one time were really good people. I mean, it was the Democrats who opposed civil rights back in the 60s.
You're
And it
right.
was the Republicans that pushed it too. And it was uh, Johnson who pushed for getting civil rights through. He wasn't very favored among Democrats, but I don't think he really gave a monkey's behind, as far as that goes. Um, he was an Air Force veteran, and so he didn't really care. And so I know that this budget that we have been attributed to getting this time, it is not a good thing. And people like you and people receiving Social Security and or pensions uh, are the most vulnerable. And those people who have seen over the years, who have been on retirement, have seen their actual spending dollars go down. And I want to throw this at you. Cost of living increases for Social Security. The first one that was given in 3 years was for $3. And they said that the cost of living was based upon the cost of fuel. Well, I know that fuel in places now is over 3.25 a gallon.
Mm-hmm.
And so seniors, we don't go that much driving. We don't have to get in our car and drive to work. And we go to our doctor's appointment, we go shopping, we may go visiting somebody, but that doesn't require us to go do that every day. It's not a schedule that we have to keep. And I have a feeling, if we don't fight it, we're going to see what you have described so eloquently about, us going back into a depression like 2008.
Yeah, I'm scared.
Well, don't be, because there's a thing, people talk about debt, our deficit, and public debt, you know, for this country. If we were to have single payer, it wouldn't cost us anything. Basically, it wouldn't cost us anything. It wouldn't cost the government anything to do that, to give us single payer. The Republicans know this, the Democrats know this, and we as legislators will also discover that as well. And you've heard about the term MMT, modern monetary theory.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a name, like your name is Angelica, and my name's David. It's just a title. It's a name given to something. But I don't think we have to worry. Okay, we have to be concerned about it because austerity programs don't do anyone any good, and that's the sad thing. Um, I don't like Paul Ryan, and I understand that he's going in a contested race up in Wisconsin, and I am just loving that to death.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch McConnell, one of the richest men in the Senate. How did he get over $20 million, of $20 million worth, on a senator's salary?
Well, we know how.
Well, yeah, it's called bribery.
Hmm.
Um, I think that there's a lot of things. Sometime we'll get into how I feel and how I believe, but I think that our Congress and our congressional representatives, our senators, even our president, who got a $16 million tax break, um, or no, I think he and his family got a 1 point something billion tax break. That's money that they get back. I don't like it. Okay, I would love to have them in my Marine Corps, all of them people. I would like to have them in my Marine Corps for just one day. One day. One day. That's all I ask. That's all I ask for. They won't survive. Period. Including that Zinke guy who was a Navy SEAL. He took an oath to protect and defend. And if he was still active duty or he's commissioned officer, he's borderline treason right now. I was in the Judge Advocate General's office, and I know what treason is, and I know what the fine is. If it's not life imprisonment, seeing as how we're at war with terror, we're in a wartime situation. He could be shot at dawn. He could be sentenced and shot at dawn by a general court-martial judge. Plain and simple. That's the law. That's the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It's very strict. It's very definite. And Zinke is in violation of his oath, his code, and protecting the United States of America, selling out like that construction company back in his state that went to Puerto Rico, $300 billion contract. They had two people working it. And then when they got the contract, suddenly there's a host of other people. Puerto Rico canned them.
You know what's
So there's a lot of corruption that we're dealing with. And so we have to stand our ground.
is that it raises that issue of people moving their businesses out of the country. So part of the tax plan would actually be to incentivize uh, businesses to buy only American manufactured products, or at least a huge percentage of American manufactured products. So it incentivizes manufacturing businesses and anything that needs to be built here in the United States to stay in the United States, because these businesses want to buy from them so they can get a deduction. It actually kind of works all the way around.
I think you're old enough to remember your parents talking, or your aunts and uncles, or even yourself. Now, something when it said "Made in America," "Made in the USA," it actually meant something. It held value as far as what it was. Tools, remember those from Sears? Craftsman tools, guaranteed for life. If it broke, bring it into the store, get it replaced, no questions asked, nothing. They replaced it, they gave it to you, and you went on your way to finish your mechanical or whatever job.
Hmm.
That we don't have that anymore with Sears. Sears is sold out to foreign interest. Kmart bought Sears. You can believe that. Um, but made in America actually means something. It means something to people around the world, just like a Mercedes or a Lamborghini. They're not made in the United States. Um, so, I mean, you know, having something made here, having our manufacturing base here in the United States. And I'd like to touch on something real quick here while I'm thinking about it. When we take and offshore components for our military weapons, for our weapons, when we do that, when we offshore them to another country, what makes you think that they're not putting in there a command that can be activated remotely that kills that plane or that tank or that smart weapon that they're using or a satellite? I mean, anybody that's good at programming, it could be totally eliminated. We have no business having arms manufactured offshore. If you're going to be a warring nation, you don't let the guy you're going to attack next make components for your tanks and airplanes.
Right. Yeah, that
I'm
makes sense.
speaking as a veteran there. I want to come.
It really makes sense. So it's kind of a problem all the way around. It's a problem for our military. It's a problem for our infrastructure and our economy. It's a huge issue in almost every aspect of life. I think that if we got back to American manufacturing and kind of supporting ourselves, that would create a good base for us to be able to have a booming economy again.
I think so. Um,
Yeah.
I have a website that I'd like for you to think about. These are some people who are nationwide, okay?
Hmm.
And I don't know if you've had a chance to run across them or not, but these folks here are really attuned to what remember that video I sent to you this morning?
Yes.
These people here know the ins and outs. They can describe it so much better than I can. In fact, um, my economic policy is based on the MMT principle. And once America finds out, once the taxpayer finds out that their tax dollars do not fund the government, when somebody says, "Well, I'm paying for their health insurance," you're not.
Yeah.
You're not paying for it. You're not paying for their food stamps. You're not paying for their health care. You're not paying for their
You're literally
education.
paying for business owners, somebody else to have more money than you.
Yes, it's a greed thing. And this MMT, uh, these people are real progressives. I encourage you to go to their website. It's Real Progressives. They're on Facebook. Pardon?
I've been interviewed by them.
Oh, fantastic. Because I really like those people because I already know how my economic policy is going to run. And I know who I'm going to have, making sure that I insert the proper verbiage, wording into each and every appropriations bill that I present, from the Senate floor. Um, Everything that we want as a nation, as a people, it's there for us. It's just that Congress doesn't think we're worthy, that we're worth it. The only thing that we are good for is fighting their wars and cheap labor. Those days are over. 2018, it is over.
Yeah, we're tired of it.
Yeah, I mean, I uh, I left the Marines in active duty in '78, and I saw my wages froze from 1982 until 2010 when I retired. I saw my wages freeze, and it's not right because corporate America CEOs, their wages went up, and they say that corporations are people. Well, good, because that means corporations can be sued now.
Hmm.
There is a board of directors. There are names. There's a board of directors. It has addresses. It also has a list of all their major shareholders. They have names and addresses too. And if they're listed as corporations, as part of that, major contributors for them, also have that. And so, because those board of directors are people, because the corporations now are people, there's no reason why they can't be charged to the full extent of the law when it comes to influencing and bribing our elected officials. Now, our elected officials, including Claire McCaskill and what's her name, Maria Cantwell out here in Washington, they are prime examples of being on the corporate dole.
Yep.
And I think we have a very good chance at fighting them, Angelica. I think we have a very good chance on fighting them. And I think that the amount of people that are coming into the fold as far as progressives and independents nationwide, we have a chance to rewrite um, our future here in America.
That's the most important
Uh,
thing.
we'll be able to. I think we'd have enough people to uh, override a veto from Trump. I think we could override a veto from Trump because there'll be so many of us there.
Hmm.
And those who don't, I promise them that I will campaign in their state against them with the person that's running against them. I will go back and I will campaign in their state. I had the opportunity to talk to a lot of Ted Cruz's people in Texas, and they said, "Yeah, he doesn't do nothing for us." I said, "Well," I said, "when you hear about the senator that's on the floor with a big mouth," I said, "you make sure you call my office and you tell me what's going on, and I'll bring you up to Congress. I'll bring you up to the Senate, and I'll read off what you have asked Mr. Cruz, Senator Cruz, to do. And I will shame him and I will shame every congressional representative that is in your district. And then I will come back and I will make sure that I campaign against them." They said, "You do that?" I says, "You're an American, aren't you?" I said, "Just because I'm in Washington doesn't mean that I don't think about you, because as senators, we're going to have to make decisions that are going to do what? It's going to affect the whole nation, and it's going to affect how the world looks at us as well." And so I take that in. I take that into heart. As far as making sure that um, I am the best public servant that I can be.
Yeah. I am at my wit's end, kind of. Seeing that there's this Clean Missouri Act here in Missouri where they're trying to get money out of politics, and they've endorsed Claire McCaskill because she talks about how she doesn't agree with Citizens United, but yet she hasn't actively done anything to get rid of Citizens United. So they've endorsed her already, even though I'm also a Democrat in this race. This is an issue I've actually been running into all over the state. With establishment Democrats that I'm actually kind of starting to call loyalist Democrats. Um, this Clean Missouri initiative is strictly to say that here in Missouri, we're not going to have our politicians at any level be bought and paid for. Uh, it's very important. I think it's great. It's a great initiative that they're doing here. It's a petition that's going around so we can get it on the ballot. It's going to get enough signatures. I'm positive of that. However, I'm not quite sure how they are going to endorse someone who is taking money from corporations and being bribed in the name of stopping corporations from bribing our politicians. I'm very confused by that. I think it might be because it's run by these loyalist Democrats who are just very, very hopeful that Claire McCaskill is this Democrat that they think that she is. But we've seen, especially with the rollback of this Dodd Frank and especially with approving a Jeep Pie, and I will say that she did approve 14 of 22 of Trump's cabinet picks. So she is not a clean candidate, and she's not going to be a clean candidate. She's not a clean senator, and she's not going to be a clean senator, and that's just the way it is, unfortunately. So there's this issue that I'm running into where people just kind of need to take the pill and realize and kind of gulp it down as hard as they need to that Claire McCaskill is just not um, a working class representative. She is a conservative Democrat. And I do believe that at this point, with her doing the co sponsoring of the Dodd Frank rollback, that she is now a wolf in sheep's clothing. And I'm very, very disappointed in her. I'm disturbed by this. I don't approve her response to net neutrality. I think that she approved the Jeep Pie and is against net neutrality because that is how we beat the establishment is with the internet. Um, I like I said, I'm sick and tired of it. I'm ready to move forward. I want to have a future. I want my kids to have a future. One of the things that I aspire for is I want to travel the world. I want to travel so badly. I want to see things because I know that I only have one life to live, and I know that I want to live it seeing things that I'm never going to be able to see again. And
Well,
I
you're young enough, you'll have that opportunity, I'm
right,
sure.
but I don't have that opportunity because finances are not there to allow for it. Our economy, our society is just in shambles. So I'm actually just struggling every day to put food on the table instead of having any enjoyment in life. The enjoyment that I get with me and my kids is finding free events in the city and taking them to these free events to have a day out to do arts and crafts or whatever that free event might be. That to me, even though that I have family and friends that say that that's awesome that I take my kids out all the time and I'm a memory maker, things. I can't really provide them with any like serious magical experiences. I can't take my kids to Disney World tomorrow, like the people that make millions of dollars can just on a whim, and that's not fair. That's not okay. I'm living my life. My life is meaningful. I have purpose. I am here, and I deserve to be happy, just like everybody else does. So I want to make sure that my kids will have better opportunities than I'm being given. And in order to do that, I need to make sure that everybody's kids is going to have better opportunities than we're being given. And it's important to me for everybody to stop feeling like they have to fight each other and to start feeling like they can get along and work together so we can all have happy lives, which is what we deserve. We are worth it. And they're just not worth as much as we're giving them at the top. They're just not worth
What
it.
we call the American dream.
Exactly.
What
I
we call
want
the
us
American
to
dream.
have the American dream for real. It's time we actually finally have it. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a question for you, and this has been on the forefront quite a bit.
Sure.
Um, you know, I read an article today where our indigenous population was 300,000 survivors from the carnage that we, as our manifest destiny, attribute to the demise of over 90 million plus indigenous people since its colonies. Um, how do you feel? What's your position on the water protectors and the environment?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. I'm actually part Cherokee also, just a little tiny bit. I can't qualify for anything, but uh, I am appalled at the path that our country has taken and has said that it's okay for us to take it. I think that we should honor the treaties that we have. When it comes to the water protectors, uh, something interesting actually happened recently where this certain group of water protectors uh, had their trademark privileges come into question by a certain senator who will go as Claire McCaskill, and she actually wanted to try to revoke some of their trademark privileges. I thought it was very coincidental that she only chose the Native Americans to go after this with when other institutions use the same trademarking technique and it's flawed just the same. And I really think it's because she stands with the pipelines and she's for the oil and coal industry, even though they're dying. And so she was the chosen one to go after the water protectors and their trademarking abilities in the name of opioids, which she actually supports. Even though she's going after this, we know that she supports opioids because she's for the war on drugs. She's for keeping marijuana at the classification that it has. So it's kind of like two two birds with one stone kind of thing for her, where she can say one thing, but then she does another. And then there's this other bill that swoops in that's kind of a no-brainer. She doesn't even have to vote for because, well, it makes her look good. It's a mess, honestly. I cannot stand what Claire McCaskill has been doing. I think that it's wrong of her to support the pipelines and to go against the water protectors in such a manner. And it's very, very obvious to me that that's what she's doing. So yeah, it's time to give them back their land.
Well, I know that nationally it won't happen.
No,
Okay.
it won't.
But when Congress enters into a treaty, it becomes law. And what they did at XL pipeline up there in Dakotas, um, and what they've done across this nation and here in the Puget Sound as well. Anytime that you encroach upon native sovereign lands based on our treaties set by Congress, the law, not only have you broken the law, but you've also uh, made an act of war. Our country, our leaders, representatives, I'm not going to call them leaders because I am a leader. Okay. I was a Marine Corps sergeant.
Right. Well, they're
I
not
was a
supposed to be
leader.
leaders.
I had I had responsibilities of 97 men and under my belt. I wanted all 97 to come home, and I couldn't do it if I didn't have the abilities that were taught to me and showed to me. And I trained. I mean, yes, some of us have that ability to see and look spatially at a situation or a problem, and I was able to rise in the ranks in the Marines. And I consider myself a leader. Those people in Congress right now, there's only one person that I consider a leader in our government, and that's Tulsi Gabbard. That's the only one that
Yeah.
I consider a leader. What they've done to the first people, they have committed an act of war. And those state officials, those governors, those mercenaries in the United States. I think that the 3% or the militia boys, they need to go down on them suckers really hard and heavy. Um, I mean, if I had mercenaries in my neighborhood, I'd be doing everything to make them want to leave. Okay, I can't be responsible for my actions when I have that kind of stuff going on, especially with the oath that I took to protect and serve.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not saying threaten violence or anything like this. I'm saying that our um, law enforcement agencies need to put a stop to it. It is an act of war, and that act of war, we could bring the United Nations into it, and we could have charges brought up by the World Court, and we could start having them suckers arrested. Okay, and that's how I feel about the rights that have been taken away from our first people. And you said I'm just a little bit Cherokee, but you know what? Guess what? A little bit, a whole lot, none at all. If you care and you love the first people, and you have empathy for what they have gone through, and you wish that they don't go through that anymore, you have become someone who loves the land as they do and appreciate their culture. I mean, I'm not going around. I can't say that. I mean, I'm sure that there is. My family's been here for a long time, and so I'm sure that there is some native blood in my family line. But it's not enough for me to worry about. But I do know that I care deeply about their welfare, their being, their culture, their language. I mean, it was the Navajo wind talkers who did what? Called in airstrikes and artillery strikes for Marines. And it was one of those wind talkers where? On the Mount Suribachi, raising the flag on Mount Suribachi. So I mean, there's a lot that we need to be thankful for from our first people. A lot. And we need to show them the respect that is warranted to them. They've lived on this land since the beginning of time, long before the Vikings came, long before the Chinese came on the West Coast, long before that. And we don't know or see any type of hazardous or super sites or pollution sites because of their living and their lifestyle. We could take a lesson from them as far as taking care of the ecology. And I
Mhm.
think that it's going to take a major effort from people like yourself and I to do just that.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's getting to the point where they always said that our planet, our world, our Earth is something that we have to protect, and we're getting to a point now where we're seeing that, and that we're actually getting to a point in our world where we have to make a decision, and that is either we continue with the oil industry or we stop doing that and move into renewable energies. And so the Native Americans were right. We have to take care of our planet, and we haven't been. It's not here for the taking, like the Bible would suggest, and we're finding that out. Um, One thing that we need to do is we have to switch over to all these renewable energies across the board. So one way that I've found that we can talk to conservatives about this issue is to say that renewable energies is where the jobs are. So here in Missouri, while I'm a big advocate against climate change, and I know that climate change is real, and I know that it needs to be corrected, I can't really talk about that on that aspect. I actually have to go into saying that's where the jobs are, that's where you need to find work. That's the only place you're going to find work because there really isn't anything else except for service industry jobs nowadays because all the
Mm-hmm.
manufacturers have left. So if we're going to start, we need to start with that conversation with conservatives that this is where the jobs are, because that's what they're worried about.
Yeah, they can't be shipped offshore.
Exactly. If we're going to have a solar field here, then the solar field is here. It's not going to be in China. If we're going to have wind turbines here, they're going to be here. They're not going to be in Mexico. So like I said, that's where the jobs are. So that's
Hmm.
one way that I've opened that line of communication with conservatives is saying that, I know that you're worried about this. I know that you think that they're listening and they're job creators, but in all actuality, there are no jobs with them. This is where they are. So come over here. And it's been working a little bit. The conversation has started. I've noticed a lot on social media, but it's not great yet. We'll get there.
Right. Well, something else that you can add to that. Well, that's where the jobs are. That's where the jobs are going to be. Also, I want you to add this into it. I've developed some green technology, and actually got to work with who I consider my mentor, who passed on a few years ago. But he told me, he says, David, he said, the grid starts with you, the end user. And in your case, Angelica, the grid starts with you as well. And because without you, without me, and others, there is no need for them power companies, those big coal-fired companies, oil-fired, nuclear plants. There are no reason for them to exist
Not
because
anymore.
we don't have. But the grid starts with you. The grid starts with me. And so the more that we can take ourselves and produce our own power sources at our residence, at our home, the better off this nation will be. And so
And
I applaud you. I applaud you again on that one there too. I've made the comment. I said, that there are independents and progressives out there, and I said we're all talking the same thing. We may not be using the same words, but we're talking the same thing.
right, we're all talking about, and even the conservatives are talking about the same thing. Now, I don't know if they support the tax plan or not, but we have this other issue of undereducation, and this other undereducation issue is becoming so apparent that it's abundant, especially in rural areas, and it needs to be worked. I know. It needs work.
Don't you love them? Don't you love kids?
She's been trying to get Tinkerbell on the screen for a little bit now. But yeah, so we need to boost up this education issue in these rural areas where they think that if I keep supporting this billionaire, that I am going to be better off for it, because that is just the wrong narrative. So another way that
Yes.
we can combat that is that they love to throw the word regulations around. There's so many regulations. Oh, big government, big government. We can't have big government. We can't have all these regulations. Well, I've been changing the word regulation to consumer and worker protections, because that's what they are. If you call it for what it is instead of making it the dirty word, then we can kind of fix the issue a little bit, and that's been working as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Mama's on TV right now. Mama's on TV. We have no commercials, so Mama can't help right now. But we're almost finished. But I have you brought up rescheduling marijuana or cannabis sativa off of Schedule One, the current schedule that it's on right now, because in states where it is legal for recreational and medical use, like it is here in Washington State, uh, they're still worried they can't get bank accounts, they can't do this, and they can't do that because of the federal classification. So much for states' rights, right?
Right.
The Republicans tell us, no, we're going to turn it back to the states and let the states decide.
Well,
But Jeff
history has
Sessions wants
demonstrated
to,
that that does not work. So if you
you're
look
right.
back at history, the reason we have a bunch of protections, consumer and worker protections, is because of the way the states actually handled uh, the corporations and the businesses. They just let it overrun them. The states cannot have that much control. They just run rampant with it. And then if you have too many different individuals states running rampant with their rules and their laws and destroying workers' rights and making kids go back to work, then
Hmm.
suddenly you have no control and you have chaos across the country and you have max exodus of states and you have one state that's got a boom in population, they don't know what to do with it, and their economy collapses. There's just a whole host of issues associated with what used to go on in our country. So that's why the federal government took over and made these regulations, these protections, was to make sure that that wouldn't happen again. But they did not put in those same protections and safeguards at the federal level, which is what we're experiencing now. And that's where we come in, is to put in those protections and safeguards so this will never happen again in our country's history. And I think if we have enough progressives in office, we can actually achieve that.
Yes, we can. Part of my platform, judicial reform, starts at the municipal level and goes all the way to the Supreme Court.
Wow.
The I believe Tulsi Gabbard has a bill, a House bill out there that is in regards to changing the classification of marijuana, taking it off of Schedule One. I don't think it should be scheduled at all.
No.
I don't think corporations should be allowed to have patents on cannabis sativa. Can you have a patent on the air that you breathe, the sunshine that comes down upon you? No, you cannot. Um,
Right.
so I don't think corporations should have patents. Um, part of my part of my thing is judicial reform, and because of that, um, marijuana rescheduling is one of the big things. And I'm only the second person in this country who has had legal access, hassle free, from possession of cannabis. I'm the second person in this nation to have that. And coming up next year is my 40th anniversary of having that right. And I could have had a lot of things happen to me that were bad, but it didn't happen. Okay. And so I'm celebrating my 40th anniversary. And so I appreciate um, your stand on that rescheduling. I thank you. Thank you very much for that,
It has
Angelica.
to take place. It has to.
It
In
has
a
to.
country
Look at the
with gun
generations destroyed.
problems, oh my goodness. It's there's this opioid issue is running rampant across the country, and we've seen that it can be helped with the use of marijuana. You know, we have innumerable amounts of products that we can make that are cheaper, like paper, where we can stop deforestation and stop tearing down trees for paper if we use hemp instead. And you know, there's
You know
so
what?
there's so
In
much.
fact, somebody asked me, "You want a receipt? You want a receipt, Dave?" I said, "No." I said, "When they start using marijuana to make paper, then I'll get a receipt. But as long as they use trees, no, I don't want a receipt."
Right. Yeah, it needs that, and you know, part of my the tax bill actually makes sure that we can stop deforestation. Also, it says that you know you will not purchase any products from known deforestation. Uh, uh, but, well, I'm losing my train of thought here with the little one behind me.
That's it. Yeah. Well, what I'd like to do is take what time we have remaining, and I'd like for you to set a plea out there. Make sure that people know your website again. Also, I want to encourage you at this point that if you have something that you want shared, you put it on my website. Okay, you put it on my website and say, "Dave, can you share this for me?" And I will make sure that it gets shared. Okay,
All right, well, shameless
and
plug.
yeah, but that's what I want you to do now. I want you to talk about you and where you're going, some of the things that you are very passionate about, like your children, um, and also uh, anything that you want to talk about now. This is you, and then when you're finished, we'll call it a night, and uh, we'll see about getting this downloaded and sent to you.
Awesome. Well, so everybody knows teammissouri.net. We need donations very, very badly for this campaign. Missourians need to know that I am here. And as of right now, yes, the message is getting out, but it's getting out so slowly at this point that I'm having a hard time and I'm struggling. So what needs to happen is I need these donations to come in very badly. $1, $3, whatever you can give. Anybody who's watching this, if you're watching this, just send that dollar over because we need it here in Missouri to run this progressive campaign and to make sure that Missourians can move forward with accurate representation. The things that I'm offering for Missourians are single payer health care. I am all for Medicare for all. And I think that it's important that Missourians know that they have one candidate in their whole state that's for this. So
Put her up on your lap.
I'm
Let the world see. Let the world see you're a mama, and put her up on your lap. Okay.
I think she's a little bit slap happy. She's been waiting for me. It's a single
Yeah,
mom issue.
I know. I know.
Anyway, so yes, we need those donations very, very badly. I want to travel the state. I want to see my constituents. I want to meet my voters, and I want to meet basically my neighbors who I haven't been able to meet, and members of my community all across the state who need to know that their elected representative is always going to be there, is always going to listen, and is always going to work for them. And that's something that I stand for, is that I will always work for my state, for my constituents, for my voters, because I am only going to be taking money from them just like you. That's so important, so they know and that we know that we are working for them and not for that person that's going to bribe us. Now, something else that I'm actually going to stand to is that if I do get approached by a person who wants to bribe me, who wants to gift me, who wants me to vote a certain way on something, I will actually publish that information and shame them for doing that, because
Yes.
lobbying and gifting is not appropriate. When I used to
Yes.
work at Toys R Us when I was in my teens, it was against the rules for me to accept a $2 tip. So, and that's just working at Toys R Us. And so, why would it be okay for a politician to accept $25,000 as a gift? It's not okay. So, I want to blow the whistle on that anytime I'm approached by something like that. I want to make sure people know what's being lobbying for, how much they're offering, who they're representing, and who they are in particular. So that's definitely a reason to donate to my campaign, because if we want to make sure that we are blowing the whistle on all this, that we have representatives who will do that, and we can see the extent and how in depth this issue really goes. And with super PACs, we can't see where that money's going or what they're doing with it. So that's another issue. Is we gotta get rid of those super PACs. So don't donate through super PACs. Donate to individual candidates like Dave and like I, so that way we can actually make these changes that we've been talking about.
Fantastic. I want to thank you for agreeing to do this podcast tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having
Thank
me.
you. Well, this right here is a first for my campaign, is doing a live back and forth like this between two candidates like ourselves. And thank you for taking part in the inaugural kickoff here.
Yeah, thanks for having
It,
me. I'm looking forward to seeing it on YouTube and putting it on replay.
yes, yes, you can look for it. You can look for it there. You'll be able to provide a link to it. It'll be definitely on YouTube, and you'll be able to take that link and go back and forth on it and publish it on your website as many times as you want.
Awesome.
And anything that I can do to help out, just reach out to me, and I'll see what I can do. I mean, I can't promise you money or anything like that, but I do have friends who are smarter than I am, and I'll impart the knowledge that they gave me to you.
Yeah, and I'm working on a tax bill. So I would love your input on that. Any help that you can give writing that. We want to get this legislation down on paper so all of us can kind of say, hey, this is what we're working towards. This is what we're going to pass. It's written out,
Hmm.
ready to go. All you have to do is vote for us now.
Right. And one thing I want you to do is keep in mind the folks at Real Progressives that I mentioned to you. Keep them in mind, because they will help you with getting ideas for how you want to write a bill. Uh, I mean, I don't think that they'll write it for us, because right now I'm doing it myself. I'm taking existing bills and going through and looking at the format and then putting my words into it.
Right.
And but no, as far as modern economics and how this country runs on our fiat money system, which means that we can print $100 trillion if we wanted to, and it wouldn't make a bit of difference. It would not devaluate that dollar one bit. And so I encourage you to reach out for them when you start talking about money and how it's going to be paid for, taxes and that type of thing. and help them clear the air for you, so that when you do, and in the process of writing your bill, and sharing it and getting co-sponsors on it, that you'll have a firm foundation, and you'll know that what you've put down on print is solid,
Right.
with no doubts in your mind.
Right. And I actually
And
take it a step further too. And what I showed you an example of is actually, it's kind of like the initial punch. It's like, oh, we need to fix this, so here's a punch, flip it and fix it. And then we would have to actually fix it again, because then it would start to go this like this. So we would have to actually write into the bill a way to keep it balanced for an extended period of time, and not just a short period of time. So this bill is actually going to be very extensive. It's going to go into years of how we're going to keep the budget balanced for all of us to live, economically successful. So
well,
there's
I,
going to be
I,
a
I
lot of
think that we
thought put
can.
into this.
I think that we can. Single payer will help us out. An infrastructure bill, because for every 1 mile of interstate that is built, it puts $1 million into the local economy.
Hmm.
For every mile of interstate or 4-lane highways, it puts $1 million into the local economy. And so our infrastructure bill, the fact that we are a sovereign nation with a fiat currency where we can actually do it. Our taxes don't pay for what we need as a nation. Um, so this is really a good thing, and I think that the direction that you're headed has a lot of promise for the people of Missouri.
Thanks. I
You're
wish
welcome.
they would have a better chance.
Well, um, I'm I knew that this was going to be a good fight for myself, and it's been a long time since I've had a good fight, and I didn't lose that one, and I don't plan on losing this one.
Yeah,
And that's the attitude that I have. Uh,
I don't plan on losing.
nope,
In all
nope.
honesty, I can't lose. If I lose, Missouri loses. If I lose, the Senate loses. Because if I lose, and Claire gets into the general, she's probably going to lose, and the seat will be flipped red. And that to
Yes.
me is a very, very, very scary prospect. And it makes it where I cannot back out, because I'm literally the only thing standing between progress and, well,
A Republican senator.
yeah, the
Yeah,
past reliving itself. Right.
yeah.
It's just me.
Well, congratulations on choosing to be a public servant. It is a thankless job at times,
I've noticed.
but the but guess what? Um, I sit down in front of my computer and I talk with people like you, and the realization comes to me. That's why I'm running.
Hmm.
That's why I'm running.
Yeah, that realization comes
Well,
a lot with a lot of different things.
yeah. Well, Angelica, if you want to pick up the conversation after we sign off here, I'm more than ready to do so.
All right.
But I want to encourage everyone who is listening and who sees this video to go to Missouri, to my friend here in Missouri running for U.S. Senate as a Democrat, progressive, okay? Because we all know how state laws are sometimes. And she has to run as a Democrat, but she's a progressive Democrat. Take that in consideration when you vote in the primaries. Think of that when you are about to buy that extra 6-pack of beer. Think about donating that money that you had for that 6-pack of beer or that McDonald's Big Mac to her campaign. Think about that. Make your money go even further.
That's how we
This
change the
woman has a lot of good, well, this woman has a lot of good ideas, ladies and gentlemen. And I encourage you, if you're in Missouri, give her the support she needs
things.
and ask her any question, because I'm sure she has a good answer for you. Angelica, thank you so much for being here tonight. And I hope that we get to do this again soon.
Yes, we are going to do it again soon. I'm going to get this little one in bed.
Okay, well, I'll let you do that. And I'm going to get as many of the posts out here as I can. I want to thank also, we had someone show up tonight, Adrian Patrick. Can you see his post?
Yes.
Okay. It says, "Keep up the good fight, guys. I wish you both well in the campaign." And I just thank you, Adrian. I don't know if you're still on, but thank you, Adrian, for those kind words and encouragement that we're going to use. Angelica, and your daughter,
Yeah, this is Iris.
have Elvira,
Iris, like the flower.
Iris. Okay. Well, Iris, you have a good night too. Be good for Mama, and we'll talk soon. We'll talk soon.
All right, thanks, David. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.